Imagine finding like this ornate, heavily locked diary in an antique shop. The leather cover has this profound title embossed in gold, something like The Secrets of the Universe.
Oh, I love those kinds of mysteries.
Right. So you buy it, you finally pick the lock, and you open the cover with trembling hands. But then you realize every single page inside is completely blank.
Just entirely empty.
Totally empty. Well, except for one thing. The only thing in the entire book is a tiny sticky note stuck to the inside back cover that just says, make sure the links aren't underlined.
Wow, that's such a perfect way to describe what we're looking at today.
It really is. That is exactly the kind of bizarre digital artifact we are unpacking today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're so glad you're joining us. We are looking at a highly unusual, extremely fragmented source document today.
Very fragmented.
Yeah. It's a text file simply labeled 07AI1.txt. And when I say fragmented, I mean we aren't looking at a massive peer-reviewed research paper here. The source material provided today is essentially a micro-excerpt.
It is the absolute barest skeletal remains of a web post. I mean, we are looking at exactly 4 isolated pieces of data.
Just 4.
Just 4. A title, an author, a specific timestamp, and 1 stray line of web code. That's it. There are no body paragraphs, no thesis statement, no conclusion whatsoever.
Which is wild.
It is. Because in this era of absolute information overload, we are so trained to look for the content, the meat of the article, the key takeaways. But when that content is stripped away completely, we are forced to look at the container itself.
Right, the metadata.
Exactly. And the shape of that container tells us an enormous amount about the system that built it and the human who tried to fill it in the first place.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I'm wondering, how do we actually extract meaning from a source that is basically a digital ghost?
It's a great question.
We have this title, AXLE, which translates from Chinese to The Mission of AI. And it's authored by someone named Wessel, or Sufeng.
Right.
And the phrase, The Mission of AI, carries an incredible amount of philosophical weight, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It implies a destiny, a moral imperative even.
Exactly. Zhou clearly sat down to drop some profound knowledge on the world. Yet we have the complete and utter absence of any body paragraphs explaining what that mission actually is.
What's fascinating here is how that absence turns the title into this almost like a Rorschach test for anyone looking at it.
Oh, I like that. A Rorschach test.
Yeah, because Yufeng's actual arguments are missing, so we are forced to project our own assumptions into the void. Like when you read the phrase, the mission of AI, your brain instantly fills in the blank based on your own tech biases.
Oh, for sure.
A techno-optimist imagines, a utopian piece about curing disease and solving climate change. But a skeptic, they assume it's a dystopian warning about the replacement of human labor or rogue superintelligence.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We are given the framing of a grand purpose, but the content is left entirely to our imagination. But wait, aren't we just doing exactly what we accuse AI of doing?
How do you mean?
Like, we're hallucinating a narrative where there isn't one. I mean, Sufeng might not have been writing a grand philosophical manifesto at all.
That's true.
What if this was just, like, a frustrated developer posting a 3-word complaint about a chatbot failing to write a basic Python script? We see the word mission and immediately assign a grand biological destiny to silicon.
That is a very fair pushback, yeah. We do constantly anthropomorphize these systems.
We do, all the time.
But that urge to assign grand narratives is exactly why this fragment is so compelling. I mean, biological evolution doesn't have a mission, it just adapts to survive, right?
Right, there's no end goal.
Exactly. Yet when we look at this artificial intelligence we are building, we desperately want to give it a job description. Sufeng initiated a conversation on a forum to declare what that mission was, or at least to ask the question.
But the internet, in its chaotic, decaying nature, decided to keep the ambition and delete the execution.
Beautifully said.
I mean, have you ever poured your heart into a long, thoughtful forum post? Maybe you spent an hour editing it perfectly, only to hit submit and get like a generic page not found server error?
Yes. It is the most defeated feeling in the world.
It really is. And that's the exact digital tragedy we're looking at here. The internet swallowed Zhou Feng's philosophy. But the server didn't actually care about the ideas. It only cared about the event itself.
Yes. The administrative record.
Right. Which is why the exact timestamp of that event survived flawlessly.
The administrative record is pristine. The source notes this was posted on 2026 210-04.02.07.
Okay, so February 10th, 2026 at 4:02 a.m. and exactly 7 seconds.
Precisely. Which, if you think about it, is exactly 1 month and 2 days prior to today's date, since today is March 12, 2026.
That time is incredibly specific, and we really have to talk about that 4:02 a.m. element.
Definitely.
Assuming this is local time for the user and not just a default server time zone, 4 a.m. is basically the witching hour of the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
It's when the noise of the day has died down and the big existential thoughts tend to creep in. It makes perfect sense that someone would be contemplating the philosophical destiny of artificial intelligence at 4 in the morning.
It does make perfect sense. If we connect this to the bigger picture, just look at the contrast between the human experience and the machine's recording of it.
Yeah.
The human might have been having a sweeping emotional realization, right? Maybe jolted out of bed with an epiphany about the future of humanity.
Sweating, typing furiously.
Exactly. But the server, the digital infrastructure, just coldly logs a data point down to the 7th second.
But why? So what does this all mean? Why does the system bother capturing the exact second 07 seconds for a post that appears to have no text attached to it? Measuring a forum post down to the second feels like overkill.
It seems like overkill until you look at the mechanics of how databases actually manage concurrent events.
Okay, explain that.
Well, a server doesn't understand philosophy. It understands chronology and sequence. In a massive relational database, you might have hundreds of users hitting the post button at the exact same minute.
Oh, so it needs to sort them out.
Right. The system needs to resolve write conflicts. So it relies on timestamps, often recorded in Unix epoch time.
Wait, Unix epoch time, what is that?
So Unix epoch time is essentially the number of seconds that have elapsed since January 1st, 1970.
Wow, since 1970.
Yeah, it's the standard way computers measure time. It uses that massive number of seconds to maintain absolute sequential order. So that 07 is crucial because it tells the database exactly where this piece of data lives in relation to everything else.
Okay, I see.
It meticulously etches that 4:02 a.m. moment into the architecture, regardless of whether the text payload actually survives.
But isn't calling it meticulous giving the machine a little too much credit? I mean, the server isn't making a conscious choice to preserve the structure over the content, right? It's just mindlessly executing a database schema. It has a column for time and a column for content.
Well, that mindless execution is exactly the point. It highlights the vulnerability of human language in digital spaces.
How so?
In a database, metadata like a timestamp is a highly structured, strongly typed piece of data. It fits perfectly into a predictable integer column.
Right.
But the human language, the paragraphs of Suofeng's essay, is usually stored as a BLB.
A blob, like a literal blob.
Basically, it stands for binary large object or just a sprawling text field. When a web scraper or an archiving bot comes through to save a page, it grabs the structured metadata effortlessly because it's predictable.
Oh, but the messy text is harder.
Exactly. The messy, unstructured part is highly vulnerable to scraping errors, database corruption, or even just simple layout changes on the website.
So the machine remembers the when perfectly because the when is native to its own language.
Yes.
The messy human philosophy is an alien language that it fumbles.
That's a great way to put it. The moment of creation is mathematically verifiable, but the creation itself is lost to the void. Which brings us to the mechanics of how this document was actually created and why the text was lost in the first place.
Right, because the final piece of our source document isn't just a missing database entry. It's a literal piece of the website's architecture that somehow bled into the text.
It's the best part of this whole artifact.
It is. So right after the title and the timestamp, we get this string of code. I'm going to read it out. Hashtag thread page space, open bracket text hyphen decoration colon none close bracket. And then hashtag thread page open bracket float colon right semicolon close bracket.
Which is just, it's so funny to see that sitting there. It is a snippet of raw CSS or cascading style sheets. For anyone who builds websites, you know this is the language used to style and format web pages.
So instead of a profound opening sentence about the future of AI, we get presentation rules. Like, to translate this code into plain English, it targets an element called a thread page, which basically confirms this was scraped from a discussion forum.
Yeah.
Then it applies a rule to the anchor tags, which are the hyperlinks, telling the browser to strip away the default underlines. And finally, it grabs that whole thread element and forces it to float to the right side of the screen.
Which is highly specific.
Very. No underlines on links and push everything to the right. That is the entirety of the surviving content. It's like going to a museum to see a masterpiece called The Mission of AI. But instead, someone just handed us the literal scaffolding and paint swatches.
This raises an important question, though, about what kind of failure we are actually looking at, because this document isn't a traditional SR, it's the result of a botched automated web scrape.
Right.
Somewhere along the line, a bot was instructed to go to this forum and extract Shuifeng's post. But bots don't read a page the way you or I do. They parse the DOM, the document object model. It's basically the underlying tree structure of the web page.
I want to dig into that mechanism, because usually people just wave it off and say, oh, the bot glitched. But how does a scraper actually miss the giant block of text and accidentally grab the CSS instead?
Well, scrapers use specific locators, like XPath or CSS selectors, to find the data they need. So a developer programs the bot to look for, say, a container labeled div class equals post body.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the web is incredibly dynamic. If the forum administrators updated their site layout, or maybe changed the name of that CSS class by even a single character,
then the bot's instructions instantly become obsolete.
Precisely. It goes looking for the text, finds nothing, and just breaks.
It's like giving someone a treasure map, but the island has experienced an earthquake and all the landmarks have moved. The bot goes to the spot where the text is supposed to be, finds nothing, and just grabs whatever code happens to be sitting nearby.
Or honestly, even more likely, the scraper was just poorly configured to begin with.
You think it was user error?
Very possible. It might have been instructed to just grab all the text within a broader section of the page, completely failing to distinguish between the HTML structural tags, the CSS style blocks hidden in the header, and the actual human-readable content.
So it just vacuumed everything up.
Basically. It took an X-ray of the web page, but its calibration was so far off that it only captured the subject's clothes, completely missing the person inside.
And think about the profound irony of what it actually captured.
Oh, it's so ironic.
The human author asks, what is the mission of AI? And the automated script, which is an actual AI performing the scrape, essentially replies by demonstrating its own literal immediate mission.
It acts out its purpose.
Yes. The scraper bot answers the philosophical question through its own flawed actions. It basically says, my mission is to execute a broken copy-paste job and tell you about how the margins were formatted.
It's hilarious.
We expect this grand destiny, and the machine delivers a directive to strip away decorations and float right.
It is the ultimate collision of human grandiosity and machine literalism.
For sure.
But there is a deeper architectural insight here about how the modern web functions. The entire internet is built on the concept of separating presentation from content.
Right. HTML and CSS.
Exactly. HTML holds the content, the words, the images. CSS dictates the presentation, the colors, the layout. This separation is what makes the web flexible and beautiful, but it is also what makes it so fragile during archiving.
Because if the archiver doesn't understand how the two pieces connect, you end up with a pile of disconnected bricks and some paint swatches.
Exactly. The human author is erased, but the invisible rules that governed how the human's text was supposed to be displayed survive. The container outlives the content.
That is so eerie.
It is, because CSS exists to bring order to the chaos of raw HTML. Without it, a web page is just a disorganized, top-to-bottom list of text. CSS imposes structure. It defines relationships.
Which honestly sounds a lot like what we are trying to force modern AI to do with human knowledge.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, we are drowning in a massive ocean of raw, chaotic data. I mean, we are essentially asking artificial intelligence to be the ultimate CSS style sheet for humanity.
Wow. That is a fascinating way to frame it.
Think about it. We don't just want AI to store our data. We want it to organize it, to style it so we can actually comprehend it.
To make it readable.
Right. We want it to apply text decoration.none to the noise, to strip away the messiness, and neatly float.right the actionable information we actually need to see.
We really do. We want the machine to impose a clean layout on our chaotic reality.
Exactly.
But this document serves as a massive reality check for how we archive our digital lives. I mean, we spend an enormous amount of time generating content. We write emails, we post on forums, we draft long documents.
But we rarely think about the underlying infrastructure holding those words in place.
Never. We trust the platforms to keep our words safe.
And this artifact proves that trust is often misplaced. If the underlying infrastructure shifts, or if the scraping tool misidentifies a container, all that human nuance vanishes in a microsecond.
It's gone.
You are left with nothing but a 4.02 AM timestamp and a formatting rule. It really highlights the stark difference between human memory and machine memory.
Oh, for sure.
Because Humans forget things all the time, whereas we assume machines have perfect recall.
Well, humans forget details, but we retain narrative.
Right.
We remember the story, the feeling, the general idea of what Zuofeng was trying to say. But machine memory is structural and absolute, yet entirely devoid of context.
It doesn't know what it's remembering.
Exactly. It doesn't remember the feeling of the essay. It just remembers the exact second it was posted and the exact rules for how the hyperlinks were supposed to look. When an automated system tries to capture a human narrative without understanding the context, we end up with these strange hybrid fossils.
A fossil where the bones are missing, but the shape of the dirt around the bones is perfectly preserved.
That's a great image.
It really makes you rethink every web page you visit. Like you're reading an article, but behind those words is this invisible scaffolding of CSS, HTML, and database schemas desperately holding everything in place.
And in this case, the scaffolding is the only survivor of the shipwreck.
It's wild to think about the journey we just went on. I mean, remind yourself where we started. We started this deep dive looking for the philosophical mission of AI. We anticipated a heavy intellectual breakdown of humanity's future alongside machine intelligence.
Yeah, we really did.
And instead, we spent our time exploring the mechanics of Unix epoch time, database architecture, and the DOM parsing failures of automated web scrapers.
We went looking for philosophy and found plumbing.
We did. But what fascinating plumbing it is, it's a vital reminder for all of us living these heavily online, modern digital lives. We focus entirely on the messages we are sending each other. We obsess over the content.
Of course we do.
But sometimes the metadata, the timestamps, the layout rules, the invisible scaffolding are the most enduring artifacts of our online conversations. The structural rules outlast the human debate.
The framework is often more durable than the art it holds. And it begs the question of what future historians or even future machines will make of our era if these are the artifacts that actually survive.
That is exactly the thought I want to leave you with today. Imagine a scenario centuries from now, an incredibly advanced artificial intelligence, perhaps one actually possessing the grand destiny that Zuofeng dreamed of, decides to dig into the ancient archives to uncover its own history.
Oh, I love this. An AI acting as an archaeologist for its own origin.
Right. It wants to know what its early creators thought its purpose was. And imagine it digs up this exact specific source file. It decrypts SOA7AI1.txt.
Okay.
Reads the human title, the mission of AI, and then it looks for the answer. It scans for the grand biological destiny assigned to it by its human creators. And all it finds is that final line of code.
It would certainly explain a lot about how machines view our priorities.
It really would. Would that hyper-advanced sentient machine look at this artifact and logically conclude that its ultimate historic defining mission was simply to ensure that web links never had underlines and were always, without fail, neatly floated to the right?
It just might.
We started this deep dive talking about the expectation of walking into a fully furnished house, only to find an empty lot with a single highly detailed mailbox. We didn't find the house today. The grained essay is gone forever.
Sadly, yes.
But honestly, I think that lone mailbox standing there in the dirt telling us exactly what time the data was supposed to arrive and exactly how it was supposed to be formatted, well, I think that tells a much more accurate story about our digital reality anyway. Thanks for exploring the empty lot with us today. Keep questioning the scaffolding.